Good morning, Bravo bosses, and welcome to I Take Bravo Very Seriously with me, your host, Dana. Today we have a very special guest. You may know her from her fire Instagram account. It's Moni from the Mix with Moni, the very cool podcast. Welcome, Moni.
Welcome to me. I love being here with the bosses and the investigator herself. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Are you an A1 Day One RHONY girl, which is what we're here to talk about today? So, RHONY has taken a turn. RHONY has taken a whole new audience. It's taken a whole new cast. It's taken a whole new vibe. And we're here today to talk all things RHONY. And so I just want to kind of know what's your background with RHONY? Tell me your RHONY
Yeah,
history.
yeah. So I got into Roni in college. It was like my junior, senior year of college. So some years ago, not from day one, because my journey into Housewives, like I trickled into each one. Like I think
Hmm.
I fell upon OC one day when I was in like early high school and never let it go. It was like something like everybody else was partying. I came home and I was like fixated in front of the TV watching Tamra yell that it was her opinion, and watching people scam cancer and whatnot.
Right.
Like, and didn't expect a casserole. Like, I was fixated.
Yeah.
And then I fell into like Beverly Hills. Like, I was there when that premiered. And Atlanta, I always, knew about and then started watching. Roni, I always thought weirdly that they were too old for me. I
Really?
was like, as a
No, I
young
get that.
person watching Housewives, I was like, and I thought they were too like serious and rich, and like I was thinking like Upper East Side and all the fanciness of it all. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I thought that that's what it was until I
Right.
got to college. So when I got to college, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And Instagram was like not a thing yet
Right.
then,
Right.
so I didn't know the hype or anything. I just gave it a try on a whim, like watching on demand with my included cable package at my like college apartment. And it was a wrap. I like binged 7 seasons in like a weekend, like didn't sleep, was like in my apartment, just
Yeah.
constantly watching Bethany and the whole thing. So the original show I fell in love with very quickly
Hmm.
and have since obviously binged like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And some spotted episodes like every once in a while I'll be like, you
Right.
know what I want to do? Watch Scary Island. Like, why not?
Right.
Like, or when Aviva throws her leg. Like, I just want to go back to a
It's a
different time.
it's a
And,
different time. It feels comfortable. It feels
it
warm.
feels so good.
Hmm.
It feels so warm to watch Ramona Singer tell Bethany that no one loves her and she doesn't have anyone while walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. It feels good. It does.
It does feel good. But then it started to feel bad. And I think that was around
It started to feel very
yeah,
bad.
season 13, I want to say, is the season where we
Hmm.
had Ebony and Leah, and it was Leah's second season. And something
Yeah,
just
it
took
got
a
bad when
turn.
Leah got on there for me. I was never a
Oh,
fan
okay.
of Leah coming on the show.
Okay.
I was probably like anti Leah from day one. I talked about it on my podcast a lot when she got casted. I just a lot of the things she does are especially in social media and stuff are microaggressions, like, and a lot of things that she has, she's benefited a lot from a culture that but also exercises a lot of her privilege at the same exact time. She made a lot of money from, being assaulting a cop and suing the police
Right.
department because they assaulted her back, which, like, I'm not even gonna have to explain that one. So, and then to be able to sue and win, and then like start a mob culture, like, hip hop streetwear brand, when it just felt, it always felt very appropriate Tory to me with Leah. So I was never a fan of her coming on the show. And then, Ebony being casted on there as like the young versus the elders just was like, it felt so forced. So then that season, I was when Leah was on there, I was like, we're in a bad place because
Hmm.
it didn't match, didn't make sense. And then when Ebony got on there, I was like, it's gone. We could probably cancel at this point.
Well, when Ebony came on, before we even saw the episodes, were you excited about the idea of them casting an African American woman on the show, or were you already knowing
I
this wasn't going to work because of her age?
Yeah,
Okay.
I knew that I did not think that it was a safe idea to honestly put any black woman on the same cast with Ramona Singer. And but that list quickly grew. Like I was skeptical about all of those women because they've made comments and things over the years. Like we know how they have treated people in other countries. Like diversity has like never been their thing. Like there is no
Not a
DEI
housewife thing.
coordinator
Yeah.
on at Bravo
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So their training on that is like very limited. So I thought it would be an unsafe thing, but I at least knew that Ebony could handle herself. I had
Mhm.
been like a low key fan of hers. Like I knew of her and seen a lot of the things that she had done. And I was like, okay, lawyer, okay, like, she does this, she knows what's going on. She can handle it. It's just like she shouldn't have to, and that's not fun television for anybody. Watching a black woman, overly accomplished black woman, have to like defend herself and like explain her value to a lot of underaccomplished white women
Right.
because of just simply her presence was like it wasn't fun TV. It's not fun TV for anybody. Nobody
No.
wants to see that. Like
No.
nobody wanted to watch racism at work. Like and watch Sonia point out different fish and be like, I have the full rainbow of fish in my pond. Okay. Like nobody wants that. Even like young white people are like, oh God, cringe.
Well, that being said, everything sort of took a shift, and I guess it was around 2020 when everything sort of took a shift. And
Yeah.
Bravo took the stand of, you know what, there's too many problematic people on this cast. The show is just at a point where we can't fix it. I guess this was what was going on in their minds. We're not even going to bother doing a reunion. So let's just scrap it. Let's scrap all 13 years of this series
Yeah.
and let's start anew. What did you think about that idea? Did you think it was an
No, I mean, I got
overreaction?
it
Did you think it
because
was good?
what was the option? Like there was no other option. Like you can't cherry pick based on performance, just which older white woman is like least liability at that point. And they were just like, I think they came down to like a money thing also. Like they're all a liability. At this
Right.
point, they're all a liability. Like the tensions were really high in our nation at the time. Like things were really, really like divided and tense. And not to say anything's, better now, but we were very sensitive during those years of like nobody wanted to be confronted with any more aggressive racism. And you had a few wild cards on the show that like which one is the least risk. It's better to just not risk it at all and like not
Yeah.
get your show canceled and just scrap it and start with people who probably at the very least are not a risk of that. Like there's other things that they may be, and of course, like young people still have the tendency to do the racism thing, but it wasn't. It was like we were really like we had no other choice with Ramona and Sonia and Luann, and like it just was feeling uncomfortable. And although people we once loved, they were making us feel really uncomfortable. But we don't want the new girls that they casted either because it just doesn't work. Like it just didn't work, the meshing of the groups. So,
Right.
and that also wasn't fun. So nobody's having a good time.
Nobody's
It
having
made
a good
sense to just start over, like to just hit a nice reset and start again because we weren't going to forget in a couple
Yeah.
years. You don't just put it on a shelf. We will still have feelings about them later on. So it felt like
That
a good idea. I don't know if it's worked, but it felt like a good idea at the time.
it's funny you say about the forgetting because I feel like sometimes people do. It's quite wild what the fandom will forget. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
get into it, but let's use
Uh-huh.
the words
Mm-hmm.
Stassi
Mm-hmm.
and
A
let's
lot of
use the
people
words
have
Kristen
their
Doty.
jobs back. Yeah.
Love
I was
me,
just
Kristen
thinking
Doty. Do
that.
I forget? Yeah, I forgot
I
a
think
little
a lot of
bit.
people have their jobs back, like it from, some firings. In fact, everybody. I think almost everybody has their
Just
job
about
back. That was a
everybody.
fan fave
Hmm.
from a particular ensemble cast show over on the
Right.
West Coast.
Right.
So yeah, they were like, oh, don't forget. Don't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
over
We
it.
can forget. So separate issue. But okay. So then they cast this whole new cast, and we have younger women, we have women of color, we have women from different types of economic backgrounds, and we think,
So New
okay,
York.
cool, right? So New York, so multicultural, so multifaceted, and we're like, okay. But then we're fighting about cheese. And I understand that from a larger perspective, and I wanted everyone to give it a chance because think about it. When you make a new friend, you meet a few new people. And I don't know why you would fight with anyone if you had just met them, but let's say you were forced to. What could you possibly fight about besides cheese? Because you don't have
Right.
that deep connection with them. You don't know that history. Now they have that history, right? So we definitely had this first season of women where we're fighting about really petty things, but we're also just watching them sort of try to get to know each other. And they are all so, so different, especially Jenna Lyons. I just find her to be a complete outlier. I'm not unhappy to have her there. I just find like it was a while to finally get them to fit. But what I
Right.
did sort of notice is when we came into this new season and we're talking about things that happened off camera, they're talking about times where they were hanging out and so didn't pay for this, or we're hanging out and so said this. But that means you guys were hanging out, right? You guys are hanging out
Hmm.
off camera, which means you're getting to know each other. So I do feel like in this season, I don't feel like it's a bunch of random women pushed together. I feel like a cast.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like we have a
Yeah.
cast.
I definitely think we have an ensemble cast now. I think that we're never going to get that old Roni feeling back, but
Right.
also we're never going to get that old Housewives feeling back because no longer are we in the practice of like just filming friend groups in a area, in a neighborhood, in a, a city or whatever. That's just not where we're at anymore with Housewives. Everyone knows the formula. Everyone knows how the show's supposed to work and what they think people want, and they're going to self-produce. Like those moments are gone. We're never gonna get Bass Lake again. Like I'm sorry. So it's like it feels unfair to compare it to old Roni because
Hmm.
that was a friend group and this is a housewife show. Like this is a
Yeah.
modern day 2020 something housewife show post COVID. This is a Salt Lake City. This is like a more recent Potomac. Like that's what this is. So I like the fact that this cast it has to act like a cast and they're doing the work to be a cast because they can't be a friend group. Like that's just not where they're at. They're coworkers. So
You
it
feel that way?
felt
See, I feel like I
really
am feeling more friend groupish.
I
Hmm,
do feel like they're forming a friend group,
forming.
but
Okay.
it feels like they're forming one from being a cast because
Sure.
it's for work. It's like
Yeah.
finding your work people,
Right.
like which
Right.
I understand and I like and I get. But we once had these are people that I've known for 20 years. These are one of my 45 best friends. This is like
Yeah.
my top 10.
Yeah.
Like for real. So those days are gone. So with this being cast, I do feel like they're doing a better job of, being more than cordial, like actually forming relationships and making memories. I would have loved to have seen a lot more of that first season and not them try to fit the Housewives mold of
Hmm.
making fights. Because contrary to popular belief, we actually don't need that much fighting all the time. Housewives people love having a good time. They love seeing the fun. We love trips and things like that. So like, just seeing them make memories probably would have been really cool. And seeing them do whatever they did while they weren't filming would have been really cool. Who
Yeah.
didn't pay, girl? Like pay me. Like give me the tea. I want to know, like, why we're talking about those things. But it does
Yeah.
feel like the arguments, like this season, they're like little stuff that they want to clear up. And the second episode, definitely more than the first, it feels like they're a lot more they have more context and depth to them.
Oh,
We're not just
yes.
fighting about cheese. We're fighting about
Right.
like
Right.
you're talking about my religion, you're talking about my money, you're talking about my family. Like
Yeah. 11.
little like, hey, you know how we were getting close over the summer? I just want to make sure you're not being a shady bitch.
Right.
Like just little checking in because we did that thing in July, but like
Right.
I'm hearing you went on a podcast and said some words. So like what is
Oh my
it?
gosh. Okay.
So I but
Let's
I
dive
like
in.
that. I feel like we're in a nice groove and I actually think we're gonna get a really good season from Jenna. The vibe that I've gotten from her the last couple of episodes, I know it's only been two, but the vibe just seems a little bit more involved. For
Yes.
whatever
Yes.
reason,
Yes.
Jenna Lyons really wants to be a housewife.
Yes.
She just does. Like,
Yeah.
and so we have to accept that that's what she wants. And apparently she's willing to do the work.
The work meaning rock climbing. And, me personally,
Yeah,
not super interested in a scene like that. But again, I saw that she was trying. This is her doing a scene
she
with
is
her
trying.
family, with her son and two other randoms,
We're
and
meeting
we're gonna go
her
rock climbing.
girlfriend
No, that's not
and
her girlfriend.
mom, and they're talking like as a, I'm like, okay,
I wish we were meeting the
okay.
actual girlfriend, but regardless of that, I
Right.
am appreciating her trying. I do I I don't know how you feel about Brynn. I want to just talk about her in a general sense
Whew.
because first
She's
of all,
tough. She's
she was the first housewife that followed me, which was like, yay, exciting. And last
she's
season I did
gorgeous.
so beautiful, so
Great
gorgeous.
fashion.
has such a vibe about her, has such a presence about her. But this
Yeah,
season, it really feels like, and I couldn't really put the words into words last week when I was talking with the Bravo babe about it, but now I'm just gonna say, like, she's putting words in people's mouths. She's adding things that
right.
aren't being said. And do you think that that's her job? Because when you look at it in contrast to Erin saying, "Listen, my mom is has cancer. I am very upset about this. This is all I can deal with right now. I don't have the capacity for anything else, and I'm annoyed, Brynn, that you are trying to create problems and you're trying to create like issues between me and Jenna, for
Right,
example, which we'll get into, when you know I'm going through all this stuff with my mom, you know?" And then I
right.
kind of stopped myself. I'm like, "Oh, it's one thing to make up stuff because it's Housewives and we're gonna make up stuff. But it's another when like you know that one of your close friends is going through something and you're actually making
Hmm.
stuff up and making her life harder. But then again, we're also filming, you know?
Right. I want to say like ¿Por qué no los dos? Like it could be both, but it also could be like Brynn is like that New York, like the richer New York pretty girl, but also just like that the pretty girl syndrome, like really having that pretty privilege
She
of
does
being
have pretty girl
aloof
syndrome.
and
Yes.
not like and not really having a lot of depth to her is to understand and the emotional intelligence to understand like what it means to be a good friend. I feel like a lot of her friendships have probably been surface level for most
Hmm.
of her life. And on this ensemble cast, she probably is like not very loyal. Because this is my job. Like these are women that I
Right.
barely know. And even though we're really close, like in like a high school clique, like we have to coexist kind of way.
Right.
Like we have to do this together mutually, but
Yeah.
I don't think she put even those two things together. She's like, well, you're
Yeah.
on the show, so I
Right.
figured you just like are open to talking about whatever. Like, but also like Erin, you are on the show and they're gonna do drama. And right now, that's the only thing you have the capacity to handle. I don't suggest being on Housewives.
This maybe was a time for her to take the season off, giving how
Yeah,
like
and we've
I'm
seen that before. How
mhm.
many times have we seen housewives like push through, quote unquote, during grief or their parents being sick or someone dying? You're just like, this is a not good season for you. Like,
Yeah.
and it just feels like Erin's going through a lot, but it also feels like, she is. She didn't have to. She could let a lot of this roll off of her back, especially when she knows it's not true. She could easily just be like, "This is not true. I don't really want to deal with this." But she chose to film a scene where she confronted, Brynn about it. So to some extent, that she understands the assignment as well. And Brynn is just, I just think that she's just not super emotionally intelligent. Like she's just not there with that and is not loyal, as Uba said. Like it's
Right.
just not her vibe.
Right. And what we've seen throughout these two episodes is this fight that I think is probably going to go on for the whole season, the
Yeah.
Jeff Lewis of it all.
Yeah.
So, what we saw happen, which was literally nothing, is that Jeff Lewis asked Erin if Brynn has someone paying for her lifestyle. And Erin said, "No, I don't think so." And then Jeff said, "I think so." That's it.
But
Nothing happened.
Aaron didn't say
Erin did what?
anything.
Right. She didn't
So
say anything. She didn't say
she
anything.
said, I don't think so.
Right. So what is she having to apologize for? Why does this keep going on? Why is Brynn trying to create a divide between Erin and Jenna to really, get it at Erin? Like, I don't understand why Brynn is creating drama. Like, she's genuinely so upset. Like, even in that
Yeah.
conversation with Erin, she's like, people have still been talking about it for 8 months. Talking about what?
Talking about
What?
what?
Nothing
First of all, we've
happened.
all been talking about it. That's why they asked Aaron. Aaron didn't bring it up.
Right.
Everyone's talking about something, and their
It's an
job is to
interview.
ask about it. And it's weird to me because we saw at the very end of the same episode, Brynn asked Rebecca Minkoff, so what do we do if people ask about Scientology? It's the exact same thing.
Hmm.
Like, people are going to ask because that's their job to ask. And on an ensemble cast, you decide, depending on where you fit or stand with that person, what your answer is going to be.
Right.
Aaron took the that's my friend approach and was like, if you're going to ask about it, what was she supposed to do? If you shut it down, it creates even more of like a confusion mark. What Jeff Lewis said is not Erin's responsibility. She should not have
Right.
to answer for that. Like, I don't think there's anything there for, Brynn to be mad at. I think that she's just sensitive about it because thou doth protest too much. It's just given Marlo Hampton like circa 7 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
So unfortunately, I don't think Brynn is meant for this. And as much as she is like beautiful and opulent and all the things we want to see in New York, I'm sure you've heard this story from about Bravo and Botox. Did you hear about what happened last year with her?
A little bit. Remind me.
Okay, so Brynn, so Bravo and Botox, Emily,
Love
she
Bravo and Botox.
love her. She fellow Canadian queen. She posted her Twitter roundups as she does, and I don't even know what it was. It was a Twitter post that someone else had made that she reposted, which is what she does. She doesn't write out any of
Yeah.
her own tweets. Sorry, that wasn't a dig. And so it was a tweet that I don't know, maybe had implied something about Brynn and money or something to that effect. And Emily wakes up in the morning. There's this long DM from Brynn calling her a bad person. How dare you say these things about me? I have such an important job that I didn't even have time to film all the time that they asked me to film. You're a bad person and you're blocked. So Emily ends up getting like 20,000 extra followers from this. But it just shows
Yeah.
how much that Brynn cannot take it, right? Because I'm sorry, if
Right.
these little small things have happened to you in Bravo and you can't take those, girl, you have no idea what's coming for you. You have
I
no
think she's
idea.
very sensitive about
Very
the
sensitive.
possible who pays for my lifestyle thing. Kind of like Kim Zolciak was really sensitive about it. But to take it, Brenda's it's very delicate to her. I noticed that she's one of the only like housewives that still has her actual job title.
Mm,
She has that first,
hmm.
like a Jenna Lyons or something would, like I just find
Right,
that like interesting to be like my job is so important that that's what I do for my day job, and I like play housewives on TV like later on. But Brynn, this is your lifestyle, this is your
right.
livelihood, and it's okay that it is.
Yeah,
Like it's not, but I think she wants to come off as like a Tinsley and like the Tinsley of the group,
yeah,
the young, pretty, and wealthy girl. Um, but also wants to say that she worked for it like a Bethany or even
right,
in this case Jenna. I think that for whatever reason, well, not whatever reason, I would be the same way. All these girls, especially Brynn, really want to impress Jenna. And if they can't, then they want everyone to hate her. Like they want to be on anti-Jenna. Like they
yeah,
want to form a little coalition. But they really are looking for her to they want to be one of the ones to be her BFF. Like the inner circle girly because Jenna is in that inner circle.
right,
So they really want that. And I can tell that Brynn is one of those people who really
right,
wants that. So it just feels like she feels like a young Giselle to me. Like she is trying to be that pop star. She's trying to be that Tamara. She's trying to like get it going. But it seems like she was not prepared for what comes with that. If you're
right,
going to be the pop star, you have to know that the girls will come after you. They'll pick that one Achilles heel and they'll just nip at it the entire time that you were on the show.
right.
Everybody talks about Giselle not having a man. She can't get a boyfriend. Like, why are you talking about my relationship when you need to go take care of yours? That kind of thing. But she continues to stir that pot. But also, Giselle always goes with the truth. Tamara's,
Hmm.
though, is a lying asshole. Like,
Yes,
Tamara lies. Like, she
yes,
just lies, lies, lies. So you can do it, but know that the girl is going to come after you, and Tamara
right.
can handle that. And it seems like Brynn cannot. But also, again, if the shoe fits, like why a hit dog will holler. Like she is consistently
Right.
getting mad at people for bringing this up, but we're bringing it up because you keep getting mad at it.
Exactly. It's a circle. Well, there's something
It's
I
a
want to, it's a
circle.
circle. So there's something I noticed with Bryn that I wanted to talk to you about that I thought was super interesting. So in the first episode of this season, we see this fight at this very important party that we're having for Bryn's brother for no reason, just a party for no
Hmm.
reason. And we
Right.
have Cy and Erin coming at Bryn a little bit over the Jeff Lewis thing. What is Erin saying? She's like, you're delusional. And I think Sai was saying, you're a narcissist. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a liar. So that's why we had that follow up conversation with Erin and Bryn. But in that conversation with Erin and Bryn, basically what Bryn is upset about was that people were yelling at her at this party. She didn't like to be spoken to that way. So she says to Erin, you know, we don't yell at each other. This isn't Staten Island. And
Uh-huh.
Erin says, I am a born and raised city person. I'm not Staten Island. So can
Which
you,
I think that's actually like a fun shady what Aaron responded. It was very like
right,
a Ramona of her and
right.
Sonia of her. I like that. But for whatever reason, I really hated Bryn saying that. Like that was like, I get it, but as I'm like, shut up, like like it
Yeah,
came off a lot more pretentious from Bryn than
hmm,
Aaron responding to it for whatever reason. Like I
totally.
was like, I laughed at one and was like at the other, like, what you people? And
Right.
also, why are you saying that to Erin if you know she's not from Staten Island? Like, what do
Well,
you have against them?
because what she's implying, and I don't believe this, but
Right.
what she is implying is that people from Staten Island are a lower class or a dirtier level. She's still saying white because people from Staten Island are stereotypically Italian, right? So she's
Asian.
still saying you're
Yeah.
still white, but you are a lower level of white. If you think back to Jersey Shore, what did they call Angelina? The Staten Island dump, okay? So this is a
Hmm.
derogatory term to refer to Italian people or lower class white people. And then
Hmm.
later on in the episode, we have Brynn telling the exact same story, but she's talking about it about Sai and how Sai was yelling at her at the party. But when she's talking about Sai and telling this exact same story, and she's like, I don't like yelling, blah, 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 it's not like we're on Riker's Island, because that's what she was doing. Those were her exact words. So when she's talking about Erin, she refers to Erin's yelling as Staten Island. But when she's talking about
Low
Sai,
class.
she's referring to her as Riker's Island.
Yeah, like what in the hell? Like how deep? I mean, again, I think it comes down to Bryn has zero emotional intelligence,
Mm,
like bad, bad. If she got it real bad, she's not aware of her words. I definitely think, um, and we talked about this a little bit, like
yeah,
before we started recording, but like that's definitely an unconscious bias. Like it's like alarming, like to even know that that's how like, how deep her unconscious bias goes because
right,
I can think of a lot of ways to make a like the same dig at a black woman and a person of color. And a lot of them not great and shady, but going straight to prison, like what is really like, oh, that's a big jump,
right.
like from other boroughs or cities or urban areas, if you're gonna do that. Because Riker's like, what do you know about? Because we know what you think about Staten Island. You're equating it to being lower class white, which again, rude. The girlies over there are
But
doing their
still
best,
white, right? She's still
but
saying
still
white.
white. But like, so then, what do you mean by Rikers Island? And what? There's no culture uh, how do you know? Like, what are you implying? Like, have you been to Rikers and they all started yelling at you? Like, I don't understand how we got there. So,
Yeah.
she's gonna need to explain that one a little bit.
Right. And with us talking about how she doesn't deal so well with public perception, let's see how she handles this. But I also don't really feel like the fandom noticed this. Like they were really stuck on the Staten Island of it all and were kind of coming at Erin for that, but not really noticing that Brynn made this comment. But can you speak a little bit to what we were talking about a little bit before we hit record about how she is white passing and maybe that plays a
Yeah.
little bit into the way that she communicated in this scenario?
Yeah, I think that something that is it's nuanced. And if you watch Potomac, they get into colorism a lot.
Yes.
Because there is something that Southern America, it all comes down to what's called the paper bag test, right? And it used to be that if you were the color of a paper bag or lighter, then that was considered like, better. It was considered you have a more closer proximity to whiteness in your lineage. Your black is more diluted versus if you were darker than a paper bag, like it's not great. It was considered a lot worse. And, darker things make people feel, they're shown in our society as like being bad. So, um, Bryn is she is technically a woman of color,
Yeah.
but she passes as white. She can pass as white. Whereas when you look at her, it is not even that she is just ambiguous, that she has features that are, European looking enough that you may think that she could be something, or you could just think that she had a nice vacation and, is your friendly, average looking white woman, like pretty girl. So in that, it's like she's probably just been the pretty girl her whole life, not pretty for a black girl, which is something
Yes.
that women who are size complexion, just even a little bit more melanated than Brynn. Like Sai is a lighter skinned woman. So or even on the Potomac cast in the colorism scheme, they would be saying the same things about her that they would say about Giselle, like, and she's even more fairer than Giselle.
Right.
So but she is more, that Sai is black. You can assume that from looking at her, even if she is a lighter woman. But
Right.
as Brynn, it is not as it's not as pronounced, and it's not something that you know as a fact upon meeting her. It's something that we all had to learn about her. Like
Right.
she had
She
to
had to tell
tell
us.
us that.
Right.
So that means that she's been able to spend her life not having people associate that connection with her. So, but that also means that she has probably also absorbed a lot of things that people do say in their own unconscious biases and their own microaggressions. She's absorbed a lot of that, maybe from family, maybe from surround people who surround her, because they've never felt like they needed to filter that around her for whatever reason. And she's never probably felt like she had to identify with anything that they were saying hurtfully because it wasn't technically about her. It didn't,
Yeah.
maybe she did not see it that way. When it comes to someone like Brynn, it's more like nature versus nurture. It's like how you were raised. And if she was raised Black, which is something that you can be, especially when you are of multiple ethnicities or, you know, mixed, biracial, whatever, or a lighter skinned person. If you were raised Black, then you are still probably aware of the things in your own white passingness and all of those things. But I don't think Brynn was. I don't. And so that's also, I mean, talk about a stereotype. That's why she has no loyalty. Like, and she's just throwing everybody under the bus and talking hot shit and bullshit to people about that. That's never a Black girl I've known. Like, it just is like that is. I think that it's something that she was not aware of saying, but her unconscious bias is informed by her upbringing as
Right.
well. And it's something that she's probably never had to check before, because I don't think that she's had to explain to people or inform people that she is Black. And if
Yeah.
anybody's watching Love is Blind this season,
Yes.
like, it reminds me of Steven, who, God, oh God, I hate him. But like, you can
Riker
tell that the
discovered he's
entire
Black
time in
through
the pods,
Ancestry.com.
yeah, that man he was scared the entire time that the woman on the other end was Black, right? You could tell he was so shook about it. And then in an effort to like make her feel more comfortable, he started talking about how his ancestry.com lineage is like, my dad's actually all from like the Congo or Sierra Leone. Like, but if you have to do an ancestry.com because you were raised Italian, thinking you were Italian, that means you passed as a Eurocentric white person your whole life.
Yeah.
And then you had to find out that your dad was actually predominantly of African descent.
Yeah.
But you, sir, had the privilege of
Yes.
living like a Italian your whole life.
Live like an
Wow,
Italian.
that's nice. A lot of us don't have that opportunity.
Goes
So
back
I
to
think
Staten
it's
Island.
that same. Right. And it's that same level of like unconscious bias. And people didn't realize, I think it was me and like the few other Black girls that, noticed and watching Love is Blind, when he called that Black girl a mutt, the woman that he was with.
Yeah.
He said, so you really are a mutt. I was like,
But she kept
but
being
that's
okay
something
with
he
it.
never
Like,
would have known that. And she agreed with it, but oh, sometimes Black people,
fair enough.
they do what they got to do to do what they got to do. Like, not
Yeah.
everything is worth the fight. You know what I mean? Like, but or she may not have had a problem with it, but the fact that he said that to
Right.
her is something that a Black man or someone who was understanding of what it was to be a Black person, I would never call another Black person a mutt. I don't care what
Right.
they're mixed
Or
with.
any person. I don't think you would
I
ever
would
call a
probably not call
person.
anybody a mutt, but like the idea of calling a Black woman, a Black, predominantly Black
Right.
presenting woman, a dog,
Oh
like,
my gosh. Yeah.
hello,
Right. Right.
what? But that's something he's never had to deal with
Yeah.
before.
We are going to
And
have
I
to
think Brynn
talk
is the
another time about
same.
Love is Blind because
Yeah.
I think we
Okay.
we definitely have to go offline and talk about that.
This season is big wild.
So good. I want to touch on this text that Brynn apparently sent to the group off camera. So I'm going to read this here. It says,
Yeah,
and I'm
God
going to
bless
do it like
Brynn.
in my Housewives theater voice, okay? All right.
Yes.
Here's how I'm going to do
Okay.
it. Oopsie. I just undid it. Hold on. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. I literally undid it.
It happens to me all the time.
No, I like clicked something and then oh, there we go. Okay. I don't scream or yell. I won't bash you in the press. No, no, not my style. I'm far, far too elegant and smart for that. Someone who tried to fuck with me once called me carbon monoxide. Invisible, odorless, and sucks the very life out of you before you even have the chance to realize it.
Okay, girl.
What do you
Wow.
make of that? And what do you make of the idea that she sends these things? Well, Sai's opinion is that that Brynn will say all these things off camera, but will never do the dirty work on camera. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know about that because we see her talking, like spreading bullshit to people on
Bullshit.
camera.
Yeah, but she
Like
won't really
she's a
say,
liar on
yeah.
camera. Like she probably won't pipe up. She's very much so like, a Giselle in that way, where Giselle is only meeting confessionals, but comes to the reunion and never performs like ever.
Yeah.
So like never has it. And I think she will talk a lot. But she's not a Casper that she'll just keep talking. Like I don't think that she's not someone who won't do it on camera. I think that if you bring it to her, I don't think she's not going to run scared.
Hmm.
She wants to get in there as well. She has snarks and things to say, and she will fight in the petty way. But I think that she definitely has bigger feelings when she's home alone and and talking and on the keyboard than when she
Oh,
is
well.
in person. And as Dorinda Medley once said, say it, forget it, write it, regret it. So now everybody's going to ask you about this text because you said it and you wrote it, so now we are going to remember it forever.
I'm also curious what it's about because it implies that some of the girls were talking about her or something happened. Obviously, this was off camera and this was during the period of time where press was probably wild on them because they were becoming famous. But I'm still very curious because it's threatening. It still sounds very
And it's
threatening to your quote
probably
unquote
about
friends.
nothing.
Of
Yeah,
course, it's
it's
about
probably
nothing.
about nothing. It was probably like, they just keep talking about how I was mad that Jeff Lewis and them brought up that I have a sugar daddy.
Oh,
Like,
goodness.
who gives a shit? Like,
I want to touch on Rebecca Minkoff, even though she has barely been in either of these two episodes, but we finally
and that's
get.
probably by design.
Is it because, okay, so we know that she's a Scientologist. We knew this going in. Then we have this scene where Brynn is asking her about it, like, what do you want us to say about the Scientology? And she's like, no comment. And then you see her get
Yeah,
defensive.
Brynn definitely tried to catch her off guard, I think, in
Yeah,
that moment, because she did not need to ask her that. Like,
she didn't
I
need to
don't
ask her.
know.
Yeah.
It was a pot stir.
Do you think, though, that production brought her on the show with the idea that she was going to talk about it? Like, do you think they brought
I
her on
think
because, ooh,
production
Scientologist? That's fun.
brought
Like,
her on the show and hoped that we would think she would talk about it
oh, okay.
because they knew we would talk about it.
Okay.
I think that in order to get her on the show, they let that lady talk about whatever she wanted to talk about.
Which is
And apparently that's
nothing.
not much. So because they just wanted to, which I don't understand that ploy. I think it's to just get more people watching the show because I think with a get like Jenna Lyons, you're fine. Like you're already
Yeah.
okay. Like you don't need another big heavy
And
hitter name
right,
to be on the show for us to watch New York. It's either gonna hit or it's not. But like Rebecca
right.
Minkoff has never been known to have a personality that we were like,
Oh, we need to know
yes,
about
let's
this. Right.
go. Let's do it. You know who I would have wanted? Nicole Miller. That's who I would have liked as
Who's that?
my like fashion designer. She have her line is
Oh,
often in like a Marshalls, a TJ Maxx, things like that. But her daughter was also on The Bachelor. She has young girls
oh,
and her
yes, yes.
daughters are like very like the what is that show that used NY Prep? They're very like Upper East Side. They're
Hmm.
very posh. They're very pretty. They're very cute, but they can get in the drama. They're young. And I think Nicole Miller would be like a nice, somebody who like we know is in the social scene. I've
Yeah.
never heard of Rebecca. In fact, I've heard that they're very stodgy people. Like the entire family is like uptight and buttoned up, and they're like all Scientologists, like heavy Scientologists. But I think that Bravo wanted to have like a bait, like to get us to
Hmm.
watch.
Right, right,
And a Scientologist agreeing to do a Housewives show is that
fair
because
enough.
nobody would expect that
Right,
or expect her to be on there because she's like they can't talk about it. So let's see what she's going to be on and talk
right,
about. And the answer is nothing. She's not
right.
going to talk about anything.
Right. We do have to talk about Erin and Abe, and I can't actually believe we forgot. Okay, so in the first episode, and I was talking with the Bravo Babe about this last week, we touched on it super briefly, and I just had this like moment, this epiphany where I was like, you know what they're probably fighting about? Maybe it's the fact that like she just had her first year of Housewives and she's different now, right? Like she's going to appearances, she's doing podcasts, she's doing all these things, and their relationship has probably just become different because now she's a housewife and now she's famous and she's like getting a little sucked into that. nope,
Right.
that's not what it is. It was
Nope.
that he has been spending their money without telling her. But it was the whitest conversation I've ever seen in my life to say, you
Girl.
sold my Bitcoin without telling me.
Yeah. And she's like, and I'm an equal partner. Like, I work hard too. And that's not to take anything away from her, girl, boss it up, do your thing. But also, yikes, a man that spends money that large of an amount, like she was trying to pay off a mortgage, do the adult thing. We don't even know what he spent it on, but we knew that he did not clear it with her first some years ago. So it just is like wild that that would be something that he never respected you as an equal partner financially.
No,
That's apparent. So I don't know what you were doing before, but it honestly also could be a little bit of the what you just said. Like he could also be a little bit threatened because in her mind she's now making money again, like more money, and she's like, we could do stuff like pay off our mortgage, like, oh, I could do this and do that and like make, and there he was. He sold it some years ago. He never expected her to even
I
get
know.
to that point. So
Yeah,
when she's like surpassing him and, and fame and stuff, she's like, whoa, I am your equal now. Like
right,
financially, especially, I'm contributing. So I need to know what's going on. And that was probably her first time looking into it because it's her first time being an equal contributor in this way.
right,
So the fact that he got rid of the Bitcoin and didn't tell her, he never saw it as her. He never saw it for her being an equal partner until she probably didn't see it for herself until right now. And I think that's also something that she's really trying to say is like, you didn't think that I was your equal until
right,
now. And now
right.
that you're realizing that, like, you got some apologizing to do, some catching up to do.
Yeah, and it also made me nervous because she found out through all of this that he had other bills from like a previous business that ended up pushing them into debt. And like I don't know all the details, but my mind just went to all of these situations like Erica and Tom, Teresa and Joe, right? Like what is your husband
Yeah.
hiding from you financially that could really screw you over? And I know this is sort of a weird
Ray
example,
and
but
Karen. Remember when the IRS came after
yes.
Ray? Oh, God.
But it sort
Terrible.
of he sort of placed a little bit of blame on her, Abe. Yeah, Abe. He placed some blame on her when he was sort of saying, like, at the beginning of our relationship, you were flying here and there with all these people, and so I needed to sort of keep up. And it reminded me of, did you ever watch The OC, like the show The OC? Like
Uh-huh.
Melissa Cooper. So Tate Donovan, which is I don't remember, Mr. Cooper, he was in the same boat. I remember him getting in all these financial difficulties because he was trying to keep up with the lifestyle of his wife and his daughter, but that's not their problem. Like that doesn't mean you need to get into financial debt and
Don't.
create crimes because your daughter and your wife like the high life. You need to tell them that they can't have it. It doesn't mean that you get to start creating or committing crimes, but it did really remind me of that, and I hope we're not creating a slippery slope where we're going to end up seeing this guy
Yeah.
arrested by the FBI, right?
Right, exactly. But I think that Erin now being clocked in is probably a nice like
Yeah, it's
buffer. Like I think
right.
she caught him just in time.
Just in time.
Now that she's asking questions and looking into stuff because I think that that was what she meant when she said like, here I am thinking we're getting out of debt. She's like, again, I'm making a lot more money now. And now I'm thinking like as a team, we're able to get over this debt because she's thinking they don't have any.
Right, right.
And to know that he was like basically robbing Peter to pay Paul of their own money, like that's sketchy and it's
Yeah.
it's troublesome. If anything, I think that she should leave that man. I know that's a hot take, and I feel
No,
like
I
where
believe you.
I don't do that, that would really piss me off. Like
That's more.
that is an unspeakable thing that you could do is because if it's that much money, oh no. Then most
Right.
couples have like a don't spend this without talking to
Right.
me first thing, or
Right.
like a credit card, like hey, we know the limit on that or whatever. Like there's a record of those things too. But like you're keeping up with my expenses and whatnot, but I don't even know what you're doing over there.
Right.
And that money's supposed to be ours. Like, what is going on? So
Exactly.
I would have a problem. Like, I would be if she doesn't divorce him first before he gets arrested or gets into some crimes. She caught him at a good time, so he's lucky that she seems to be still in it
Yeah. And
because
I
I
completely
would
agree
be
with you.
pissed.
I would divorce that man too. But one funny thing that I do just want to mention, it's probably so rude, but I have to say it. When she was talking about flying around with all these men, doing this and that, but she never had to have sex with any of them, did your mind go to like BJ's for PJs?
Yeah, a little
She didn't
bit.
have to have
Also,
sex
was
with them,
like
but just BJ's for PJs.
Yeah, but it also felt like a little bit of a Brynn dig
Yeah,
still.
yeah, it
A little
totally
bit.
did.
It's like no one's ever gonna have those rumors about me.
Right. All right. Well, Monty, it was so great to talk to you. I love talking Roni with you. Where can the people
So
find you if they want
fun.
to follow you and see what you have going on?
Yeah, even though we did a a rebrand and it's the Mix with Monty, you can still follow me on anything at Mixing with Monty, MixingWithMani. And anywhere that you are listening to this podcast, you can also find my podcast, The Mix with Monty.
Thanks so much for coming. Love you, BBs.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This show is brought to you in partnership with Hurrdat Media. If you want to listen to this show or any other episode, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Hurrdat Media's YouTube channel to watch my full-length video podcast episodes. You can follow me on Instagram at I Take Bravo Very Seriously and at The Bravo Investigator. You can follow me on TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. Head to buymeacoffee.com/I Take Bravo Very Seriously to buy me a coffee. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/I Take Bravo Very Seriously for 4 extra mini episodes a month, early episodes, ad-free, Q&A, and exclusive access to bonus content. If you enjoyed the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.